So in this video, we are going to be carrying on looking at real talk, looking at our stories. We're going to look at depression today. Tabz is going to share some of his story and he's going to give some tips that are hopefully going to help you or somebody that you know.
Welcome back to another session on our Safe Space channel. We have been quite busy on our channel recently, actually. We've been adding a few different things in there. We've had our song challenge, which has been, I've really enjoyed editing those videos. That's really good fun. And we also went live for some chill out music the other night, which I really enjoyed. That was good. It felt very peaceful.
Yeah, no, it did.
And it's all there. You can watch it back. And if you don't want to miss it happening in the future, all you have to do is hit subscribe and tap that notification bell, and you shouldn't miss out on anything like that if that's what you want to do.
So we have a couple of shout outs, one for Luke and one for Julian, who've shared some really cool things with us on Instagram. So please do comment on Instagram, let us know that you are there. That would be awesome and you could get a shout out.
Things are going to get a bit deep today, but before we get there, I do have to congratulate Abby on being the first commenter on our last video, this time last week. Well done, Abby. And we also have just a little question to get us thinking from our rooted pack of cards. Our question today is...
It's the wrong way around.
And our question this week is...
Do you take good care of yourself? So 0, absolutely not. 10, yes, I take care of myself. Comment below, 0 to 10.
0 to 10. Put your number in the comments. Very good.
Topical.
What do you think? Topical.
We're going to spend the rest of our time looking at the topic of depression. So if that is not for you, then please go and watch one of our more light-hearted videos. But if that is for you, then please do take a listen at Tabz's story, because he might be able to help you or somebody that you know.
At least one of us doesn't have a problem getting on stools. That's a reference to last week's video in case you missed it. Okay, good to go. I remember once watching the video of men and boys of different ages crying. It was actually really cleverly done if you've seen it, with the motto, "It takes balls to cry." Mind you, I watched the version with the cleaner language, of course, but the message inspired me loads. You see, we live in a world that's more ready to tell you to man up than to speak up. More ready to call you a wimp than to celebrate the strength it needs to talk about our emotions. I have to say that I feel I'm one of the blessed ones. To be free of depression would be amazing, but I'm mostly just thankful that my own journey has been a very slow and gentle realisation of having relatively mild depression. Like, I have my moments, but I genuinely find the expression struggling with depression doesn't really fit for me. So I don't feel I'm necessarily the best person to give advice on depression, not in the same way Hetty spoke about her anxiety in our last video, or some of our friends that we have lined up to speak about their mental health issues in our future videos. But like my dad, who's a huge inspiration for me doing this, like my dad says, if you feel strong enough to speak up about depression, then do it for the sake of those who don't feel strong enough to speak up themselves. You see, depression, like a lot of other mental health issues, carries what's known as a stigma, which is basically like a mark of shame or embarrassment that's latched onto it. Too often, it's seen as like a weakness, something that disqualifies or disables you and can leave you feeling disapproved of even. When actually, when someone who does struggle with depression makes themselves vulnerable by opening up, they're expressing a huge amount of strength. It takes strength to be vulnerable, even for those with great emotional health. In fact, there's an incredible TEDx talk by the author Brené Brown on that very subject. Go and check it out on YouTube. I grew up with depression in my family. My dad took the incredibly brave decision to retire 10 years early from teaching due to it when I was still at school myself. I guess I'm still at school, but you know what I mean. Actually, secondary school was where I'd now reflect back and see some early stages of depression in myself. At university, it was mostly just felt like loneliness. But as a secret extrovert, I craved the energy I got from being around other people. But when I wore my heart on my sleeve, I bet it was pretty draining for my friends. Sorry, friends. Having grown up with an understanding of depression, I'd often question if I had it, or whether it was just what one of my friends in psychiatry once described as being highly sensitive. Then I got to a point where I'd been in full-time employment as a youth worker for a couple of years and involved voluntarily in youth work projects for 5 years before that. I'd developed quite a serious medical condition in my digestive system. I lost my appetite for the best part of a year, during which I lost about a quarter of my body weight, and I went to see my GP, who referred me on to what was a year's worth of all the appropriate medical examinations, cameras here and elsewhere. But one of the things that also offered me, one of the things he also offered me was some help with my mental health. I can remember asking lots of questions. I remember thinking, should I accept this? Can I admit I could use some help with depression without that making me look like some sort of crazy person? Or can I still do my job? Can I still serve in different leadership roles voluntarily in local churches and organisations? Can I still be of use? Can I still fulfil my purpose? Now I know that the answer to all those questions was yes, and still is yes. But to cut a long story short, I decided to take the very low dose of antidepressants that my GP was offering. I didn't opt for NHS counselling, perhaps because of some of those questions that I had going around in my head. But actually, later, as I've recovered, I've actually ended up going and doing a couple of courses in counselling training myself, which has really helped me massively in a way that receiving counselling all those years ago may well have done. I think what my stories taught me is to view mental health with the parallel of physical health. Like with my stomach, the obvious thing was to go see a doctor, for him to refer me for specialist examination and for me to get all the appropriate medication. And then now for me to be on a continued low dose of those pills alongside managing my diet and avoiding certain foods. No stigma there, no shame. So just like a physical health issue, I learn't to see mental health from the same angle. The meds I was put on for that essentially very slightly adjust the level of a certain chemical in my brain that isn't quite right. Like my other medication is there to slightly adjust the level of acid in my stomach. And like I'm careful about what I eat, I'm also careful to look after myself and to maintain certain practices that keep me emotionally healthy. There shouldn't be a stigma there. There shouldn't be any shame there. I love my life, my wife, my family, my friends, my job. I feel I do have purpose in all those things. I have my moments, but coming to terms with my mental health has helped me keep totally on top of it. So that's my story. It's not all that dramatic, to be honest, and I wouldn't want to exaggerate it in order for it to be. But I'm sharing it for those who don't yet have the strength to share their own.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. It's great for us to be able to share our stories with you so that you can try and find some support where you need it as well. And I especially think it's great for guys to speak about how they feel, how they're doing, how life is treating them, their emotions.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys don't seem to do that.
Yeah,
and actually somebody needs to start and maybe other people will carry on.
That whole man up thing.
Yeah.
But
also for some people, they kind of have mild symptoms of something like depression and they think, I'm not as bad as other people, so I can't, you know, go for any help because I'm not really at that point. But actually, you showed that even with mild symptoms, there are a lot of things you can do to get support and get help and help you thrive more in life, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
So I wondered, seeing as, you know, there's people that are watching that might have experienced things too, or might have friends or family members experiencing things.
Yeah.
And you said, which I really, really liked, the whole idea that physical health and mental health shouldn't really have a separation, that actually we should treat both of them the same. And if you've got a physical issue, you go to a doctor. If you've got a mental issue, then going to a doctor all makes sense.
Yeah.
So have you got any specific tips that might help people right now?
To look after themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think to strip away that shame is really, really important. The idea of the stigma of around sharing about your feelings and not speaking up, like I think that's something that, you know, we really need to get rid of. The idea that, like, the worry of how's this going to affect me if I admit to having like things with mental health. Yeah, I think that would be one thing to try and eliminate that shame.
Yeah.
Next thing is, one thing you can do to try and eliminate that is to speak up.
Yeah.
The importance of speaking up. My dad said he shares about his depression story because other people might not feel strong enough to themselves.
True. Yeah, that's good.
But in sharing is actually really quite helpful.
Yeah.
Particularly sharing with someone else who's maybe had similar struggles. That is really, really helpful and really important.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, we would usually be in schools. And so if someone was going through depression and wanted to talk to me about it, I'd happily have that conversation. But right now it's kind of not possible. So there are different places you can go to, different things you can do. Speaking to a GP, don't be ashamed to do that if that's what you need. Or it might be that you don't need that and you recognise that you don't need that so much, but there's loads that you can do to actually help yourself by speaking up and not being afraid to share.
Yeah, stripping away the shame is really important. Speaking up is really important. Any other wise words? Because I think these are really helpful.
I think it would be trying to find something that brings you hope. So whether it's, you know, your friends, family, future aspirations, things like that. For me, like, quite often people that know me would know that I'd probably default to saying my personal faith. But I genuinely mean that. Like, for those who've followed our stuff for a few months, you'll remember the band Childline, who brought that message of there is hope. And that hope has a name, it's Jesus. And, you know, people find hope in all sorts of different ways, but for me, that's where I go to, that's where I look, and that's been a massive help. So whatever you can do to find hope and to kind of put yourself in that place of hope really, really can help you in those darker moments. But also, invest in joy would be the last thing I'd say.
Good one.
Because joy is different to happiness. Yeah. Joy is much deeper. Happiness is very much circumstantial, whereas joy is something that you can actually build into your life. I keep some notes of things that bring me real joy, and so when I need to, I go and look at those notes and reflect back on it. Actually, it brings a smile to my face, even if I'm feeling at my worst. It's really important. So things that bring you joy, whether it's helpful sayings or moments or memories, make a note of them and really invest in them, because that will help you in those moments when you really need it. That's
brilliant. Thank you so much. That's really, really great, and hopefully you will have got something from that too. And if you do feel like, actually, I'm in that situation where I do need a bit of further support, you can go to Young Minds. You can speak to your GP, you can speak to Childline. We recommend Philippi Counselling in Southport as well. So please do get some extra support if you need it. And if you feel like this video has been helpful for you, you could send it to a friend who maybe it could be helpful for as well. And if you've really enjoyed this series of going a bit deeper and getting real and sharing our stories, then do subscribe so that you can make sure that you don't miss the next one. So we will see you next week, where we're going to share about another big topic. See you then. Bye!
See ya.